Hi, I'm Tony Williams and welcome to Brooklyn Savvy. On today's episode, we'll be taking a look at internet safety, cyberbullying, and sexting with Renee Gregory, Assistant DA, and you're in the Brooklyn office.
That's correct.
Brooklyn's always in the house, ladies.
It sure is.
Now, this is on the minds of everybody. You know, the sexting, the cyberbullying, internet safety. I'm repeating myself, but be that as it may, give us a definition of what cyberbullying is, or could you frame that for us?
Cyberbullying is traditional bullying, but by way of using the internet, cell phones, tweeting, Facebook, and all of the electronic media that has the fascination of young people today. Basically, words are weapons on over the wave, the airwaves.
But it's just words. Right.
It could be considered that.
Isn't it, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never harm me?
Well, I think the difference is, is that what happens is that if you and I were exchanging angry words to each other, that's where it ends. But I now have the ability to reach out to dozens of my friends, perhaps hundreds of people over the airwaves, to get them involved in now
it also can be
using
anonymous,
words.
too. I mean, that's the thing that really pisses me off about the internet is people who feel empowered to go on there without actually saying who they are and ruin someone else's life.
And that is a big problem.
Right, so, for me, it's like, so where do we draw the line between defamation of character, because if you're saying inappropriate or things about me that are untrue, and then free speech, how do we make that particular balance with this?
The balance, there's no bright line. It just depends on what's happening, what's being said. With defamation of character, ultimately, if there were to, be some considerations in civil court land, you would have to show how you were harmed in some way. But
my reputation was harmed. That's not good,
I couldn't get into college because of what?
I lost my job. I lost my
job. But is this really happening in terms of all of these things? I can see a business. You ruining, let's say you're a contractor and somebody writes a nasty blog about your services, that I can see that there might be legal recourse, right?
Right, but what's happening, and I think how it's impacting young people in particular, is that they don't realize, and I'm glad you mentioned getting into college and not being able to. There are colleges now that ask on the application, what's your Facebook page, and they're looking to see what you've done.
We don't hire an intern without Googling them, Facebooking them.
I don't think that's fair.
Well,
I don't either.
I talked to college administrators where the offer was pulled after seeing the
not
Facebook.
fair.
But the difference is that
why do you tell us?
I think it's not fair because she just talked about First Amendment rights, and I could say whatever I want, and you don't have to like me for that. What does that have to do with my ability to be able to be a student or otherwise? Unless you're doing.
Well, what if you're doing something
the
illegal?
difference
What does
is,
that have to do with studying in college?
Well, let me ask you a
but it
question.
depends on the extreme.
Right.
It depends on what's happening. If you go onto a Facebook page and you see that there's a teenager that's been talking like a teenager with other teenagers and using slang and perhaps some profanity, well, it might not be acceptable to us as parents, but that's acceptable. But there are many young people who are on their Facebook pages and sending pictures of themselves holding firearms, dressed in the nude, and then colleges have to now.
Well, alcohol's a big one.
Alcohol's
At my
a big
son's
one.
school, they have asked kids to take down pictures of them holding beers underage because they're affiliated with the school, and then they actually not evicted. Ejected, expelled someone from his school last year for what they found was a racist remark on their Facebook page, having nothing to do with the school. But he was expelled because that was a public, to your point, you don't have to like my opinion.
But some of it is pranks.
Well,
it doesn't always.
But there's a measure, though. There's a measure. It's always in the eye of the beholder. But that's why it's important. Like at the district attorney's office, we've gone out and spoken to over 70,000 people in the last couple of years just about this, so that perhaps parents are enlightened, youngsters are enlightened about.
They don't take it seriously, though. I have a teenager. I mean, they don't think that when they're typing online that it's public.
But you know
or that
something? My son took down his MySpace page because he knew he wouldn't be able to control what's going in and what's going out and all that kind of thing. So it does depend, but I agree with you though,
Who's
Ellen.
supervising these children?
Well, let's talk about that.
Okay, that's a problem. You know, District Attorney Hines and I always love this little scenario that he gives. He says, you know, if a 45-year-old man knocked on your door and said, "Hi, I'm here to play with your 9-year-old daughter," would you just open the door and let him in and send him to your room? And the answer is, of course you wouldn't. So you're exposing your young children to that same sort of activity.
Even with parental controls.
Well, and with parental controls,
in your home.
In my home, I have granddaughters. We live in a large home like this, and the computer is in the main room. The
Public access.
Right. The screen. That's right, public access. But the screen faces outward, so that
Very smart.
we are able to see what's going
How old
on.
are your granddaughters that this is?
And their granddaughters
10,
too, probably, right?
10, 9, and 7.
Okay.
But
That makes
it's
sense to me.
But I think that
No, but-
anyone under the age of 16, you could be, you're not knowing. And I know that it's tough because...
No, I'm totally with you,
Right.
but I guess my challenge is my son goes to a laptop school. In 5th grade, they are issued laptops.
Yes.
So they do not have a big screen that I am facing. It
Right,
is
correct.
a screen he is carrying around. It has
Right.
parental controls, and now he's almost 16, and I still pull the computer out of his room at 10:30 every night, because if he hasn't finished his homework on it, you know, he hasn't managed his time well.
My granddaughters as well. They have netbooks or notebooks, but you
his
monitor.
activity?
He knows that at any moment
I mean, not
I
to
can
blow
look.
up here, but-
No.
Yeah.
He knows. We have a deal. His phone and his computer. I don't do it every night. I don't do it even that often. It's about trust. But he knows that anything he writes, I can look at. And my IT guy is standing right behind me.
But there's also
You know.
warning signs.
excellent.
If you walk into your child's room, let's say your child's computer is in the room, or you are walking towards the computer and all of a sudden the screen goes black or the screen
I
changes.
did that to my daughter once, and she caught me
Then-
on it. What are you looking at?
that should be a signal to a parent. Maybe I need to see. And it's not that your children are intentionally
They might be
looking
playing video
at.
games instead of doing homework.
No. They might not
It could be
intentionally be
innocent
looking at
explanation.
porn. But
Right.
one of the things that happens in porn sites, they're savvy.
Right.
They
Yeah.
set up so that if you misspell Disney or Sesame
Yes,
Street
yes.
or Hannah Montana, you have found your way onto a porn site. So you have to be very careful. It's not that, I'm not saying that children are looking to do the wrong
No,
thing.
it's coming to them, and I
predators
think,
out there.
yeah, they're like, I think the statistic that I was reading, like for kids as early as 11 years old have been exposed to porn on the internet.
Right.
Correct.
You know, this is a different
this?
discussion too, because they don't even recognize it half the time because of the stuff they're seeing that's sanctioned on network or cable television.
Well, that's
It's very graphic on.
That's very
But I want to
graphic.
ask also,
Kids
because,
are going
you know,
up too
from what I understand, there are varying degrees, right? There's flaming, there's cyberbullying, there's harassing, and there's stalking. And so, you know, can you talk about some of the differences
Okay, what the
and the
stalking?
implications?
Yeah, the stalking is
Stalking
Right.
is very dangerous, and particularly for younger children, because they do not realize that they are giving personal information. You could say to your child, don't give personal information about yourself on the computer. So they think my address and so on. But a stalker will engage your child in conversation as if they are another second grader. Do you like math? You know, oh, I go to PSX.
Right.
What's your, you know, my teacher's name is, who's your favorite teacher? And then a stalker may be able to find out where your child attends school. Conversation continues. Don't you like pink? Isn't that your favorite color? Let's wear our pink sweaters tomorrow. So now the stalker knows where you attend school and what you're wearing. So that's why it's dangerous. You know, this is not about,
But that's frightening.
which is why young people need to be monitored when they
Can
are
I
on the
ask you the
computer.
real question?
Yes.
You know, you'd probably say, "Oh, come on, you're not with the program," or the kids would say that. What about having no internet in the house. I mean, seriously.
It's a problem.
Well, the problem with that is that our world has moved to a point where there is not a lot that you can do without knowing how to use the computer.
What about for kids?
Well, for kids too.
Homework on the internet is very important.
Right. As a matter of fact, they come home with a flash drive.
Right.
The homework's on a flash
My
drive.
son has to Dropbox his homework every night. Literally, he uses the internet to Dropbox his
That's
homework.
what they do
But I
today.
wonder how many parents are as vigilant. Thank you. Right. Blah blah. You know, on that level, I think of my kids.
If your kid
right.
has a computer, and again, because my son is in a program where it's obligatory to have a computer, you have to be vigilant. You have to be vigilant
Really,
because
really
otherwise, it's like
Right.
to your point. If I could live in a world without internet, I mean, I don't know that I could function. I did before the internet, but
don't have that though, Ellen. And there are a lot of people also, and a lot of the young people, because I think that's where we want to focus too, and helping them understand the implications. And what's the school's role? How do you know when to bring the authorities in?
Immediately, if you suspect,
If there's cyberbullying going
if there's
on.
cyberbullying, but if you
Cyberbullying.
suspect that there is a problem, you need to alert the school, because schools have the ability to invite attorneys like myself from the district attorney's office to come out to speak to students. To come out, we speak to parents. I've spoken to parents at the YMCA, at churches, at synagogues.
But, I think
so
to your-
education is important.
I want to go back to also to the question of then what's the school's role? Because I've seen where schools have gotten involved, they've overstepped the authority, and they've been sued for overstepping their bounds and also for violating the child's First Amendment rights.
Privacy?
Well, if a parent brings,
Free speech rights, yeah.
well, if a parent is bringing a concern to the school, I mean, and the school then has really an obligation, if it's something that's occurring within the school, to have their own way of looking at it. It doesn't mean that you have to take away the First Amendment rights of all of the students. But again, in the New York City public schools, at least, there are not supposed to be cell phones. So a lot of this activity should not be happening during the public.
And so some of the schools are setting up their own policies so that it moves it from a contractual issue as opposed to a constitutional one.
Where are the parents? I mean, it seems to me that we cannot put everything onto the school system, what about the basic concept of right and wrong?
But when it comes to cyberbullying, I think it's a little different, isn't it?
No.
You're talking about the parents of the bullier?
Exactly. Exactly. We need to teach our children right and wrong. Somewhere along the line, I don't care what century you're in, but something is missing. And the accountability, morality, ethics, right and wrong, that will never change.
Your kid is the victim though, Denise.
But
then
you know what,
do?
may I just say that I agree with you, but I think that today's generation that is growing up is going to be a little bit probably more active with their young people. I didn't grow up as probably many of you in this world, so we don't know what we know.
We're not as tech savvy, and I don't care what you say. I don't see us being all that savvy. That's what the challenge is.
When we were growing up, there were things that we did that our parents never understood. Yet we knew that there was a fine line of respect.
Some of us did.
Of respect.
Some of us did. Some of us did.
But most of us.
You know what? I understand your point. We should
Maybe
all be good people. We should all be good people. We should all, but we're not.
But we're not.
But the computers, the internet.
I think the internet is a revolution, though. This is like a revolution. This is much,
But it exploded, and we got our kids started with this
without
rules. You see?
To Denise's point, you say where are the parents, whether you're the parent of a victim or the parent of the person who's perpetrating it. But part of the problem is, and what I said to my children is, okay, when I had a diary, the deal was my mom wasn't supposed to read my diary.
talked about
But my diary was
Right.
one book that I wrote in that if it got torched, disappeared.
Right.
The minute you type something into zeros and ones and it
Anybody can
becomes
see it.
binary code,
Right.
it is available forever.
And
Forever.
that's what kids.
And to all.
And
to all.
But sometimes the young mind doesn't get
But
it.
I'm saying that's a hard
But on
concept
that
for
note, I
parents.
think we're going to take a break.